Well, good morning, Christ Central, and welcome to our daily devotionals. My name's Fiona, and today we are continuing in the Gospel of Luke. Now, Jesus' mother and brothers came to see him, but they were not able to get near him because of the crowd. Someone told him, "Your mothers and brothers are standing outside wanting to see you." He replied, "My mother and brothers are those who hear God's word and put it into practice." One day, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side of the lake." So they got into a boat and set out. As they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake so that the boat was being swamped and they were in great danger. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." He got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. "Where is your faith?" he asked his disciples. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, "Who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him." So today's reading is in two parts. Firstly, the part referring to Jesus' family. Now, I think this is both positive and negative, really. I don't actually like the thought of Jesus turning his biological family away. I wouldn't be very happy if my parents and brother dismiss me in the way Jesus seems to dismiss them, claiming they are of the same importance as everyone else who receives God's word. However, for those of us who aren't Jesus' biological family as such, it's a great comfort and a privilege to be accepted as his brothers and sisters and mother by our belief in him. It must also be a comfort to those believers in the faith who are sadly without any parents or siblings, knowing that they have been elevated to the position akin to Mary, the mother of Jesus, if they hear God's word and put it into practice. The second part of the reading of the story of Jesus calming a storm is Jesus suggests to his friends jumping in a boat and going to the other side of the lake. Jesus then proceeds to fall asleep. Now, I don't know about you, but I would need to be pretty chilled out, possibly even drugged, to fall asleep on a boat. And certainly, if there was the slightest rocking in the water, I would be awake immediately and on my guard. But Luke tells us there was a squall, which when I looked up the word means sudden violent storm, especially one bringing rain, snow or sleet. The boat was also being swamped, and I presume this means filling up with water rather fast, because Luke uses the words, "They were in great danger." Now, who on earth could possibly sleep through that? Well, we're told that Jesus did. The disciples have to wake him up with the words, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." They must have felt terrified and possibly even a little bit annoyed that whilst they're fearing for their lives, Jesus is, well, chilling in the boat. When he's woken, Jesus calmly gets up, rebukes the wind and the raging waters, and there follows complete calm. Jesus then turns to his friends and says, "Where's your faith?" It's no wonder that the disciples, in conjunction with amazement, also feel a bit of fear, as should we, because Jesus has the power to calm the most raging storms and the most terrifying elements of nature. Storms, tornadoes, volcanoes, etc., they all obey. Now, on a physical level, this story is clear. God created the world, and he has the power to allow natural disasters or the power to stop them. But what about on a metaphorical level? Well, clearly the message to us today is about having faith during the storms of life. The big difference is that a physical storm will pass relatively quickly, but personal and spiritual storms can rage on for months, even years. During these tough times, it really is difficult to keep persevering in prayer when nothing ever seems to change and sometimes it even gets worse. But we're encouraged to be thankful and to keep on praising during these times. Sometimes we can, and sometimes it's just a little bit too difficult. And that's when it's okay to let those around us carry us in prayer. If we look back at the story again, the disciples were frantic and scared, while Jesus was, well, asleep. And you can't get more relaxed than that, can you? When the storm had been calmed, Jesus asks, "Where is your faith?" Interesting that he uses the present tense, "Where is your faith?" Not the past, "Where was your faith?" I think it's easier to have faith once the storm has subsided, but not so easy during it. The greatest example of someone who did manage to keep faith in the most unimaginable storm was Corrie ten Boom. Corrie worked with her family during the Second World War to help Jews escape from the Nazis by hiding them in her home. She believed her family was able to do this because they were following the will of God. The family were eventually caught, and Corrie was arrested and sent to a concentration camp. Now, anyone who has any knowledge of the utter cruelty and torture that went on in places like Auschwitz and Ravensbrück, where Corrie was, will appreciate the understatement of the phrase, "She went through many trials." But throughout this, Corrie was still able to share God's love and bring many, many people to faith. Corrie ten Boom is famous for many memorable quotations, but one that I think is apt for this morning and what I will leave you with is, "You can never learn that Christ is all you need until Christ is all you have." And just one last one by Sherilyn Kenyon, which I found, which I always love, and it's quite amusing. "Life isn't finding shelter in the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain." Thank you for listening.